Hello, everyone. I am here with a very special guest that I'm very excited to introduce to you all. She is freaking the UK right now, okay? And I feel so uh, lucky. What time is it right now at home? I'm ready.
It is 2 p.m. in
Okay,
the
it's not so bad. It's not so bad. 9 a.m. my time, 2 p.m. your time. That's actually perfect for the two of us. Uh, I'm Rudy Choudhry. Did I say that? You'll say it better than me.
UK.
Is my guest today. She is a life coach, she is a physician, a doctor, and she specializes on coaching women through weight loss.
hmm
And I was just telling her, I've had a few weight loss guests in the podcast before. I had mostly talking about diet culture. So I really wanted to bring that perception forward to our listeners.
Yeah.
But I was telling Amruti today that I, more than anybody in the entire world, needs this podcast today. So for those
Mm.
of you tuning in, if you are somebody who is thinking about losing weight, who's thinking like, oh, I should be doing this, I need to do this, I want to do this, and you feel maybe a little bit overwhelmed, maybe like you've tried everything, like all of the options that we have of cutting everything and not eating ever a carb in your life again. Does, doesn't sound that appealing. I am very, very positive that this podcast will be helpful to you. I'm ready. I'll let you tell your story, but you have a pretty phenomenal story with weight loss on its own, and I'm sure you'll tell me how you got to from being a physician, a doctor, wanting to coach women on life coach. Like I'm sure that has to do with your personal experience. But
Yeah.
for everybody listening, I have no idea where this episode is going. Like we'll see where it goes.
Mm.
I simply want to say, as a woman, newly to my 40s, I'm 40 as of last year. I am seeing changes in my body, hormonal changes. I am seeing frustrations that I've never had before. And I really can relate to some of the frustrations I've heard. And I think for all of us has been like a lifelong
Mm.
conversation. So all I'm saying is tune in, listen openly. This is a perhaps different conversation that you've ever heard before. I don't know
Mm.
what approach we're gonna give, but it's definitely not gonna be the typical thing you hear about body weight. So, Rudy, do you mind just introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got into coaching?
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for having me. So, I'm Dr. Amruti Choudhry. I am a physician in the UK, and I'd basically been up and down with my weight all my life. And as you can imagine, as a physician giving advice on weight loss, I felt like a fraud. I had so much shame about it, and I was like a lot of the thoughts that came into my brain were, who do you think you are giving advice on weight loss when you are obese yourself? I was probably class 4 obese, so I was about 92 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds, but that for me was a BMI of 38, 39. Now I know BMI isn't like very accurate and things, but I'm just saying it so that people can
For
kind of
people to know.
understand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I basically tried all the diets under the sun. And I'm not saying that none of them helped, but some of them helped, but they were just never sustainable for me. So by the end of me trying everything under the sun, I was doing some things that were really restrictive. So I was doing intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day, fasting 23 hours a day. I was doing low carb, like really low carb. I was exercising 1,500 calories a day, where I was burning that. And I still wasn't losing any further weight. And I was like, I understand all the science. I'm doing all the right things. Why am I not losing any further weight? And
Yes,
I was
tell
just
us
like,
why.
yeah, the thing that I was missing was the most essential bit. And that was looking for what food was actually solving for me.
Mm.
And it was actually when I started realizing that actually I was eating because I was bored or I was overwhelmed and I was using food to kind of make myself feel better. And actually, it was working because I was surviving, I was thriving in my career as a mum of two young boys. I was actually like on paper, my life was brilliant.
Mm.
But inside, I just felt like there was just something missing. I wasn't actually feeling happy from inside, right? And so the food was filling that void that food could never fill. And so when I started assessing what is it that it's filling, I could get to that root cause. And that's when everything changed. And I was able to look for what is it that I actually am seeking? What are those thoughts that are holding me back? What emotions am I not allowing myself to feel and pushing away by eating the food? And when I could get to that, everything changed. I was like, oh, I get to actually, feel those emotions in my body and I don't need to push them away. Like I was able to create safety in my own nervous system to be able to feel the boredom, the overwhelm, the sadness, the loneliness, whatever it was that I was feeling. And I held space for that and everything changed. So I basically started this journey to lose weight, but it changed the way I approached myself, the relationship I had with myself. I started having my own back for the first time in my whole life. I started like relying on myself to provide myself happiness instead of like being annoyed at my husband for not remembering to buy me a birthday gift or something.
Yeah.
And that's when I started taking responsibility. I was a much better mum, much better wife. I healed my relationship with my mother-in-law, which was always quite rocky. And I was able to start up this business where I never had any business experience, but I just had this calling to help these women. And I was like, this calling is why I was put on this earth, and that's why I do what I do.
I love it. And I want to offer that my first thought was like, but that's easy. No, tell me something complicated. How do we lose? Because I feel that so many of us think the solution has to be, and we on like complicated, and we underlook at feeling your feelings. might be the beginning of that change for you. Now, 92 kilos for all my American, Canadian friends is 200 pounds. Um, and from what I was reading on your own bio, you lost about
42 kilos, which is
42 kilos.
92 pounds
That's
ish.
insane.
I'm only little, so I'm only 5'1.5". So that was nearly half my body weight. Yeah.
Half your body weight. That's bananas. And it took you how long from the moment you start noticing like it had to do with your thoughts and with your emotions, really, like changing your relationship with boredom or with overwhelm. How long will you say it's like that once that process started? Is it like when you start a diet and you start seeing like, oh, week one, I'm losing a little bit of weight. Week two, I'm a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Because for people thinking like who are so used to, and I know you specifically help professionals
Yeah.
in your practice. So we're busy, right? Like we're
Mm-hmm.
moms, we've got a million things. And
Yeah.
we've got the added self-pressure of like, I've got to look fit.
Yes. Yes.
So for the overachievers, like we like
Yes.
to scratch off, like, okay, I've done this on my list.
Mm.
What will you say, like what like with this approach, what's sort of like what they need to expect in terms of time it takes to
Yeah.
bounce back?
Okay. So most people think that I need to work hard in my weight loss to create results.
Right.
This is how this is completely different, because what we do is we completely simplify things. We make it doable. And when you are able to make it doable, what that means is there's life happens and life is going to continue happening. And when you think that you need to have a less chaotic life to be able to lose weight, that's when you're never going to start, because there's always going to be something that will come up in life. And so the way I teach weight loss is life is going to happen. What we want to learn how to do is make it fit into the life that you currently have, which is where we bring in the doable plan, which is where you are literally planning for about 5 minutes a day and evaluating your plan for 5 minutes a day. So for in 10 minutes a day, you can create results without over exercising. So you don't even need to exercise at all when you're trying to lose weight, when you are on this kind of like method, and you get to do it in 10 minutes a day. So everyone's going to be like, wait, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
That's not going to be enough. What
And no
are you talking
exercise.
about?
Yeah. Not sweating to the ground. What are you saying?
Yeah. So when you learn these tools, when you learn how to pay attention to your body's natural signals, your hunger signals, your body is actually naturally like it wants to be at the weight that you naturally want to be at. And so when we eat in a certain way where we are using food to numb out our emotions or to, just to get a high from food that we're not actually getting from our life, that's when we can like really get deep into that, and we could be like, oh, okay, let's just look for what is food is actually solving for me. If it's because I want some peace at the end of the day, how can I like give myself peace during the day? If it's a little bit of relaxation, how can I relax during the day so that I don't need that food to solve for that at the end of the day? When we
Mm.
can do that, that is everything.
Oh, I love that. Definitely. As I was texting one of the other coaches, friends of ours, um, I was like, "How are you so skinny and 8 years older than me?" As I was eating a caramel rice cracker
Mm.
with my, and I was like, "I guess you might not be eating this option." And it's not that it's an unhealthy option, but I noticed the link for sure. Frustrated with body weight, and then
Yeah.
just going for the next thing that I've got a lot of food intolerances, which I think uh, I can sort of relate to what you're saying of how does food make you feel, because I think I'm ingrained in my system now is like the paying attention to
Mm.
the response my body might have to
Mm.
food. Um, and I think many of us do. And I tell people, oh, I stopped eating gluten because I was always bloated. I ended the
Mm.
day feeling like I was 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
The response I hear from most people is like, maybe I'm intolerant to gluten too. Like they kind of
Mm.
feel the same way. And I'm
Mm.
like, maybe not. Maybe something
Mm.
else, right? Like you really have to pay attention to what it is. So I love this method. How did you learn that? How did you figure it out for yourself? Because as a physician, I know I've battled with my own physicians to be like, it's gotta be the food. Tell me, like it had to be a naturopath really who paid attention to my intolerances, because
Mm.
my doctor just ruled out all conditions, and then he was like, I don't know, you're fine. It's in your head.
It's so interesting because even as a physician, we don't get taught these things. In
Mhm,
medical school, we literally spend maybe a few hours learning about nutrition.
mhm,
And most of that is learning about some random vitamin disorders that we're probably never going to see.
mhm,
So the vast majority was learned by myself. I was doing my own reading. I was like figuring out like, okay, what happens when I do this? I was actually like, reading loads of books on it. And then what happened is I was like, okay, I'm going to combine the science with all the coaching certifications that I've like undergone. And I was just thinking, okay, I need to create a program that is like simple, doable, and like really easy for people to follow in like to fit in with their lives, rather than something that's just going to be really hard and long and they're having to weigh their foods and count their calories and all of that. You don't need to do any of that at all, ever.
oh
And
my
then
god,
you get to pay
cool.
attention to your body and eat exactly what you want, plan what you want every single day. And the beauty of that is then what you see is it's not about like just the number on the scale. It's about, hey, what I'm doing is I'm learning, I'm winning, I'm failing, I'm like doing it all, and I have my own back throughout it all.
Which
Because
I
then
think
when
is so essential to have your own back, especially
oh
when
my
it comes to
goodness,
dieting, right? Like
yeah.
we're so like, you failed, you're a failure.
Yes. And when you can see the difference between I failed at something and I am a failure, that is everything, because we normally personalize a lot of our failures
Right.
and we make it mean something about ourselves. But when we can see that every ovary is necessary, because that holds the answer to why I'm using that food to like to make myself feel better, that's when you can change that perspective and you can be like, oh, I'm overeating because of something. Let me go and find out what it is. Then you get to be curious, then you get to be like a little bit playful with it and be like, oh, okay, how am I going to have my own back in this? Because when you can do that along the journey, when you get there at your destination, whatever that destination is for you, it's just much more sustainable and doable.
So I'm really, I struggle with this overeating because I don't think I qualify as an overeater. Like
Mm.
actually for me, um, I find that I undereat unintentionally, not wanting to lose weight.
Yes.
I'm not hungry. Like right now,
Yeah.
I'm just having coffee. I'm probably not gonna eat anything until like
Yes.
I feel hungry, and then I'll have.
Yes.
And so in the past, I have tried the macro diet where I'm
Okay.
counting my macros out
Yeah.
of desperation of like something's gonna help here, and noticed that definitely I was under eating, and my metabolism
Mm.
has slowed down. And
Mm.
so that has it makes no sense, but it's made me gain weight as opposed to lose
Completely.
it. So the moment
Yeah.
I start counting things, I'm on top of how much protein, especially protein, how much protein I'm eating. And then I start losing weight. But I cannot be a slave of measuring food. Like it just goes against my personality. Like I did it for a while. I love that I went down a few pounds. I was feeling great. But then when I thought of the long-term reality of weighing my food for life, I was like, and the moment I stop weighing my food, the weight goes up. So so normally we do have an extra amount of weight because we're overeating, and maybe I am overeating the wrong foods, right? Like maybe in that sense, although I might only have 2 meals, maybe they're richer on carbs versus veggies or protein. I'm realizing I need to eat more protein or more times. Metabolism has something to do with it. So what will you say to somebody who might not relate to the overeating? Like, and in my head, I'm like, but and I eat so healthy already.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Limitations.
This is exactly like, this is so good. Okay. Because so much of like overeating is a term used for when you are eating more than your body physically needs. Now, technically, you may not be eating physically that much, right? But because your body is not used to using your own body's fat as fuel, then you're constantly being a sugar burner. Right. So what that means is you're gonna be eating based on your body's hunger signals. But the way that our society and the way we eat right now, it throws our hunger signals through the roof. It like they're very unbalanced. So when you can learn how to balance those hunger signals, what happens is your body then becomes fat adapted, which means it starts using your own body's fat as fuel, and you're not then relying on food that you're eating as your primary source. So even if you are consuming like food, you may be eating very small amounts, but because your body is not fat adapted, it's only going to be relying on the food that you're eating rather than your body's fat as fuel, which is why in the program, you learn how to balance out your hunger hormones so that your body gets used to relying on your body's fat as fuel as well as eating. So say like you're feeling a pang of hunger. Yeah. When you're fat adapted, it's kind of like it's just a wave of hunger and then it goes down. When you're a sugar burner or when your body hormones aren't like balanced, then it feels very urgent. I need to eat straight away. I need to eat now. You may get hungry. You may have, some symptoms. And so when that happens,
you may kill your husband. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my poor husband. He used to feel the brunt of this all the time because I would get so like cross at him, But now it's kind of like I can feel a bit of hunger and it will be like, okay, it's okay if I wait like 5 or 10 minutes. Hunger is never an emergency, but it feels like that in our body because our body is like primed to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and stay how we are, right? So it wants us to seek the pleasure from the food. And when we know that we've actually got stores on our body, even at normal BMI, for like 3 to 6 months, that's when we know, okay, if I don't tend to my hunger straight away, it's not the end of the world. And I'm not saying be hungry on purpose, not at all. But it's natural to feel a bit of hunger now and again because it's a normal human sensation. And when we can not have so much fear about hunger, that's when things change because then we're not like urgent to go and eat the food straight away.
So yeah, I feel that I've learned. I used to be like that angry human. Like I used to have a snack on my purse because if hunger hit, like I would literally kill somebody. So I'm not like this mostly because of my food intolerances. So I've learned to be like, if there is nothing I can eat here, I'm gonna have to wait until and that came with patience too, right? Like I am very patient to understand. Like sometimes we might be at a birthday party and there is absolutely or just cucumbers that I might be able to eat, right? Like everything else might have gluten or dairy and I'll just be watching everybody else have fun. And I used to get mad or upset or be like, oh, I'm missing out on food. Now I can literally, I found abundance in whatever I can eat and my brain is not panicking. Yeah. So I've got this story in my head and I just, because I know you do the mind as well. And the story is, I'm probably perimenopause, puzzled now. I definitely had low egg reserve early in my 30s. So I'm not shocked if I am perimenopausal. My metabolism is slowing down. I'm getting older. And although I thought consciously, I always thought it's not true that you gain weight with age. I have plenty of evidence of elderly people who are fit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it cannot be. But now it's like my body is like, yes, you do. Let me
Mm-hmm.
show you how to. So I feel that I have this contradictory belief, or like I've got
Mm-hmm.
evidence of something, and then a thought in my head
Yeah.
that like says, I've got lots of muscle. I exercise every day. I lift weights.
Yeah.
I move, but I've got fat. Exactly what you're saying. Like have you ever heard of lumen?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard of
Yeah.
Lumen.
So I have lumen, and I measure it every morning. And yes, most days I'm not burning fat. I'm burning carbs, right? Like lumen, for those of you listening, is a tool that they design that helps you blow into it, and with your breath, it can tell whether your body is in ketosis or not, or whether you're burning fat or carbs. And it actually provides you with what you need to eat on that day based on your own specific body. The problem is I'll have to measure things. Right? So I simply just measure where I wake up at. That's
Mm-hmm.
as much as I've used it. So I know I've got some evidence to suggest that, yes, I'm definitely waking up. Even if I had like if I had a salad and salmon, now I've realized, and if it's before 4 p.m. or something like that, if the window, then I wake up in fat
Mm.
mode. Otherwise, it won't happen. So my question to you is, how will you, what, like as a physician, because I now have like this thought in my head that says like, yeah, but if your hormones are changing, you're bound to gain weight, and there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
you can do.
Mm. What if both are true?
What if both are true?
Yeah, that there is
Yeah, so then
evidence to
what's the
show.
solution? So I've considered that. I'm like, what if hormones changing have, it's the only thing that's changed in my life, because I've always exercised, I've always
Yeah,
in this way. So
yeah,
that's having an impact. But then what I was doing is not working. And that's the
yeah,
part that my brain is like, then what do you
yeah.
do? You're gonna have
Yes.
to change something.
Yes, and that's where your brain has some resistance, right?
Yes,
Because
totally.
it's kind of like, oh, well, I have to change something. And I think that it is true, like both can be true. Because, yes, as your hormones change, there is going to be a redistribution of fat. And actually, it can be harder to lose weight as you get older, especially around the perimenopause, menopause. But also, that is not the only factor. There's so many other factors that play. And so if you can hold that, yeah, it may be that that will impact my weight a little bit, but that is not the only thing. And I will be in control of the things that I can be in control of, because
Right.
I can't control my weight. Sorry,
No,
my age. I can
no,
control, I can't control my how many eggs I have in my ovaries, right?
no.
But what I can control is my mind, how I'm going to choose to think about it, what I'm going to actually choose to consume, how I'm going to approach it, and how I'm going to have my own back regardless. And so when you can focus on that, and when you can like notice when your brain is offering up these excuses, that's when everything will change.
Hmm. So so my brain is now wanting to go very technical.
Tell me all the things.
So I'm thinking like, yeah, but then now I need answers. Like, is it my hormones? So do you suggest any testing? Like, I've been like, trust me, I said today was a great day because this past few days I've been researching high and low. Who's out there?
Mm.
What are they doing? What kind of testing are they doing? And I've come across a few people who talk about being coaches for women who are 40 plus, and they
Yeah.
talk about doing some sort of hormonal testing
Yeah.
and something about your DNA to
Mm-hmm.
understand I guess how I break down foods and like at a cellular level, like what should I
Mm-hmm.
be eating? What are your thoughts on that? Is this something that your program
This isn't something that I'm really into, because I think that then the focus is on there is an answer out there that's outside of me. And the answer is always inside of you. But it takes the work to figure out that plan, that food like consumption that actually suits you. So
Mm,
I don't agree with all of the like, let's measure your hormones, because then you're looking at something outside of you to dictate for you what to eat. The only way that anything is going to be sustainable for you is if you choose your plan. You know exactly what foods like suit you, what foods feel great in your body, what foods help you to lose weight. And so then when you create your own doable plan, and then you evaluate and be like, okay, did I stick to it? Did I feel my emotions, my urges? Did I actually tap into my hunger signals and notice that if I was actually hungry when I started eating and eaten to enough? And did I do my self coaching around it? And when you can hit all of those 6 steps, then you're kind of like, oh, okay, then you evaluate without judgment and you're like, okay, I'm just going to tweak something. If I didn't do any of those things, I know exactly what to focus on. So then it makes it much simpler, because then if you're not hitting like the goals that you want to, you just tweak something very slightly, and then you keep doing the same thing and evaluating again. And I know that feels like tedious for some people, and it's like, oh, I don't have the time for that.
It's not
Actually, it
fast
literally
enough.
takes,
Yeah.
yeah, it literally takes 5 minutes a day. And so when you're willing to be like willing to play the slightly longer game with this and not have the answer given to you, but find your own answer, that's the magic, because everyone has their own different answer. And when we try and put ourselves into these categories, that's where the problem comes, because none of us fit into a category. We're our own entity.
Part of my brain loves that. Part of my brain wants to fight everything you just said.
Yeah, I know.
I love defining the answers, because then I can
Yeah.
see how I would totally buy into this is sustainable. I'm huge into sustainability, right? Like, so even Lumen, I'm like, it's a great tool, but what am I going to carry this in the rest of my life
Yeah.
to tell me what and how I'm eating? Like, no, like that's not long term. Like, I can't imagine that
Yeah.
in my 50s, I can't go golf until I measure my breath. Like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So, I really, I think that the very attractive part is like finding our own voice. And like what you're making me realize is that even though I've created a layer of awareness to like, I mean, unlike most people, right? Like we all know in the first layer of understanding, sugar is not great for your body. Alcohol is not amazing for your body. So like we understand that.
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing through this is that I perhaps have a room to grow in self-awareness of like, am I hungry? Am I not? What am I eating? What are some pressure points?
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't eat any dairy at all, and I still give myself permission to eat it. Like,
Mm.
why? Knowing what I know, right? And that's an answer that came from outside that I now have. The part that my brain wants to argue
Yeah.
with is how it almost feels like too liberating. And
Yeah.
and like my brain's like, but this is supposed to be a little bit restrictive, right? So like if I was only following your 6 steps, um, my brain wants to think like, but then like I don't have enough guidance. Like,
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
supposed to be eating this or not? Tell me, right? Like, does that
Exactly. Like, I completely hear what you're saying. So in the program, like when, like if anyone is interested in there, like I go through this in a lot more detail. But what I normally talk about at the beginning is how to become fat adapted and how to balance out the hunger hormones. And actually there is a way to do that very sustainably and very like easily, so that you have some sort of guidance. And the guidance it is based on the insulin theory of weight loss, where basically when your insulin levels are high, you're going to be in fat storage mode, and so it's going to be much harder for you to lose weight when you have high insulin levels. So the whole aim, especially when you first join, is to lower down your insulin levels, and there's a few ways to do that. So we talk about different ways of doing that, and you don't have to do that like sustainably, like all the time. But if you do that for a period of about say 6 to 8 weeks, some people get it done in 3 weeks, then what you're doing is you are recalibrating those hunger hormones. And that's when everything becomes much easier. So one way of doing that is not having sugar and flour in your diet for those periods, for that period of 6 to 8 weeks, and doing intermittent fasting, which is both of those things are lowering down your insulin levels just for that time. It also improves your ghrelin and your leptin levels, which are also other hunger hormones. Now, a lot of people have a lot of drama about this because they're like, oh my gosh, this is very restrictive and stuff. This isn't something you have to do ongoing, but the whole point of it is for you to become fat adapted and for your hunger hormones to become balanced. So then you can then decide what it feels like in your body and whether you like the feeling in your body or not. Because so many people don't know. And when you don't know, you're just going to carry on eating it, and you don't
you don't notice you're bloated until you're not bloated.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
oh, I was very bloated.
Yeah.
Hold on, I want to come back just for the listener's purpose. So
Yeah.
I love the term is fat adapted. So like your
Yeah.
body has to learn to use fat
Yeah.
as fuel as
Yeah.
opposed of insulin.
So as opposed to being a sugar burner. And so the
Sugar.
goal
Okay.
of insulin, which is the hormone that's secreted by the pancreas in our abdomen, the role of that is to transport glucose from the food that we eat into our cells. And so it's a chemical messenger released every time we eat to try and transport the glucose from the food that we eat into our cells. So every time our insulin is raised, we're in storage mode. It's storing the glucose. And when it's in storage mode, we're storing the excess glucose as fat. So whenever your insulin levels are raised, you're in fat storage mode rather than fat burning mode. So that means every time you eat, you're raising your insulin. Every time you eat a lot of sugar and flour, because they're the most concentrated forms of carbohydrate, which our bodies are not used to like dealing with, there's a huge insulin spike in our blood. So that doesn't mean you can never eat that. I'm not saying that. I don't think
Yeah.
that's going to be sustainable for anyone.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
during the period of becoming fat adapted, which is that period, I think your body you will really benefit from not having it for a certain amount of time. So you can calibrate your hunger hormones. So then when you do eat it, you start noticing, oh, this is what it feels like in my body. Because for me, I was very resistant to that. I was like, this is diet mentality all over again. I'm not doing it. I'm very like, I was totally against it. And then I said, look, I've tried everything else. Let me just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? I tried it and it was like, I became fat adapted very quickly. And I got something called appetite correction, which means because my hunger hormones were balanced, I couldn't physically eat any more than I needed to. And I realized that how much I was eating was way less than I would have eaten previously because those hunger hormones were balanced. And I was not depriving myself. I was not doing anything, but I was just shocked at like, oh my goodness, I can't physically eat anymore now. And it's because those hunger hormones were balanced. So when I got there, it was much easier for me to lose weight because I could pay attention to those body's natural signals.
So insulin, I've noticed, I've learned that, and it's been the case for me that in perimenopause, you're insulin resistant naturally, and so some of us might freak out, but I don't eat anything. What's going on? Now I know it is part of the hormonal change.
Yeah.
So this will be helpful for that because then
Yeah.
you're definitely using sugar mostly as your form of fuel. Now I want people to understand why this is important as a first step. So yes, you're gonna get to balance your hunger hormones, and once you're fat adapted, like once your body has made that shift, physiologically, what begins to happen? Why is this a first step that is important for any other next step?
Yeah. So when your hunger hormones are balanced, you become much more able to use the body's natural fat stores as fuel. Because what happens is the fat in the body releases something called leptin. Leptin is a hormone released by your body's fat cells. But when your insulin levels are high, it interferes with the leptin. And the whole point of leptin is to say, hey, I've got some fat here. You don't need to consume as much. Use some of me. Use some of the fat. But when your insulin levels are high, it interferes with leptin. So then you're not able to like notice, hey, I've got a lot of fat stores on me. I don't need to consume as much. Do you see? Another thing is ghrelin. It helps balance the ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone that's kind of like, I think of it like grrr. It makes like, your like tummy's rumbling and stuff. Yeah. And so it tells you when you have like when you're feeling hungry and when you have eaten to enough. So when you are eating a lot of sugar and flour and other very concentrated forms of food, your body it interferes with the ghrelin secretion, which means you're going to eat way more than you normally would because you've got a natural human brain that wants you to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and stay how you are. And it thinks eating food is essential for your survival. So it's going to get you to eat way more than you need because it keeps thinking that that's ensuring your survival. So this is why it's important to balance those hunger hormones so you can actually pay attention to what they're meant to be telling you.
Oh, that's exciting. And so you said this is about 6 to 8 weeks, and then intermittent fasting, which we'll come back into in a moment, because I want people to walk away with a clear understanding of what that is. But then what if 6 to 8 weeks, like, does your body now naturally stay in that state? Or
Yeah.
you
So
have
what
to keep
happens?
up?
Yeah. So what happens is normally if you're doing it quite strictly, no sugar, no flour, intermittent fasting, you're in this that kind of stage where your insulin levels, your basal insulin levels, which is the background insulin levels, are quite low. So you are going to like get into fat adaptation much quicker. If which is like most of my clients, they're like, wait, but I love my bread with my avocado in the mornings. I'm going to have my toast and my bagel. That's the reason why I say 6 to 8 weeks, because naturally, the way our society is, we eat a lot of sugar and flour. So that's the reason why I say, if you have it now and again, don't think you're going back to the beginning. You're not. This is why we've said 6 to 8 weeks, because actually it can happen in 3. But you can either do it like hardcore in 3, or you can like do it a bit slower in 6 to 8.
Okay. So, but after that, the idea is to sort of like stay away from
Yeah.
these things.
So
Like
the idea is
not
to
all the
kind of
time, but
maintain. Yeah. The idea is to maintain like a lower insulin state. So some people do that with 3 meals a day with no snacks in between. Some people do it with eating a generally like a lower carb diet. Some people do it with a mixture of everything. How I do it personally, I had bad insulin resistance, like really bad. I've got so much diabetes in my family. I was like, I probably would have been diagnosed with gestational diabetes in my pregnancy, but I hadn't been diagnosed then. Anyway, we'll get into that another day. But it took me, when I started intermittent fasting, it took me 4 months of my hunger hormones starting to balance before I started losing weight. So this isn't a quick fix for anyone, but this is learning how to balance those hunger hormones. Now, this was like 2 years before I started coaching. So it wasn't that I wasn't doing it before, like I was doing a lot of this before. But when you're in, it's not just about the hunger hormones. It's about looking for what food is solving for you and doing a lot of the mind and the body work as well. Because when you can feel those emotions in your body, and those urges in your body, like when you really want to eat the food, then you don't need the food to make it better. You can actually create that safety to be able to feel all those things without needing the food. So it's a combination of everything.
I love it. I love the sustainability.
Yeah.
And I feel like people who are like, so I'm not there, but I feel the frustration, and I realize like I am not overweight.
Yeah.
And even then I'm still like, 20 pounds heavier than my normal, than the
It's
body
not even
I was
about,
used to.
yeah, it's not even about just being overweight or not. It's about how much space, food, your body weight, your the way you look at yourself is taking up in your life and in your mind.
Yes. So, but I was saying, like, I can imagine how people might feel frustrated at that, but like, I really like the sustainability of this solution. Now, what's intermittent fasting? I'm sure most people have heard about it.
Yeah.
I personally dislike the misconceptions that there are of intermittent fasting. So, for everybody's sake, can you quickly tell us what it is? What's the safe way to do it so that we don't have like crazy things happening after people listen to us?
So intermittent fasting is a tool that some people use to actually help balance out some of the hunger hormones. So intermittent fasting is when you are extending the body's natural fasting window when you are sleeping. So normally most people fast for about 10 to 12 hours anyway because of the sleeping period. And most people don't eat right before they go to bed or like as soon as they wake up. So if you're naturally fasting for 10 to 12 hours, intermittent fasting is a way to extend that fast slightly so that your insulin levels are lower in that time. So you are extending that period of low insulin, basically. And so most people, how they start off is with a fast for 16 hours and for an eating period or an eating window of about 8 hours. So that's commonly known as 16-8. And that is the most common way where you are just eating, what's recommended is eating 2 meals with no snacks in between because you want to lower your insulin levels as much as possible. And so in the fasting window where you are fasting, you're having clear beverages, which is like water, sparkling water, black tea, black coffee, red bush tea, green tea, with no flavorings, no milk, no like sweeteners or sugar or anything in between. That's generally how you do it.
What about coconut oil in your coffee or oil in your coffee? Does that count as fasting?
So different people say it differently. Some people say if it's less than 50 calories, then it shouldn't count. But I prefer doing a completely clean fast because it just then, even when you are having a bit of coconut oil, it will raise your insulin a little bit. Even if it is a little bit, you're breaking your fast. And so what I would suggest is especially when you're becoming fat adapted, I would go kind of all in and not have all those other bits in between. And then say when you're doing this more sustainably, then you may want to kind of add in some MCT oil or some coconut oil or some, make a bulletproof coffee, which is when you're having a black coffee with some coconut oil or MCT oil. And so then you can then like experiment with things a bit later on, but especially at the beginning, I would say to keep a clean fast, which means, not having anything during those things other than those clear fluids.
And those 2 meals that people are having, what's in them? Anything they want, they can go crazy and eat all the things they want. What will you suggest?
I would suggest eating as normally as possible. Most people have all the mind drama about, oh my gosh, I need to get everything in that 8 hour window. I need
That's
to
what
eat
I'm
it
asking.
all. Yeah. And so the thing is, if you are still consuming more than your body needs, intermittent fasting is just a tool. It's
Right.
not going to solve all the problems, but it can help because it will help balance out your hunger hormones. So I wouldn't go all in and eat all the things. But what I would suggest is eating two balanced meals, which have plenty of nutrition. How I like to kind of like, this is not a rule, but this is just how I like to do it. About half a plate of veg, some sort of fat source, some sort of protein source. And if you like veggies and rice and things, then have a bit of veggies and rice. But I wouldn't like go or like I wouldn't use that as a like a definite rule. This is just something that works for me
Yeah.
and works for a lot of my clients. I would find what works for you. But the thing to like really know about the hunger hormones, the more fiber you're eating, and especially in your fruits and veg, the lower your insulin response. And the more healthy fats you're eating, it lowers your insulin response as well. So the healthy fats are
Thank you.
things like
You're reading my
like,
mind.
yeah, like avocado, olives, double cream, eggs, full fat meats, butter, ghee, all the cheeses, all the nuts and nut butters. So all of these are healthy fats. And so the thing is, it's not to overconsume them, but it's to add them because firstly, they lower your insulin response. And secondly, they make you feel fuller for longer. So they keep you satiated. So this is why you're not going to feel hangry in between your meals, because you're going to actually feel like you're nourishing your body. You're actually going to be feeling full. And so when you are able to add the fats to the meals, it's just then about tweaking. Okay, I've had this much this time. I felt extra hungry before my last meal. Okay, so tomorrow what I'll do is I'll add a little bit more fat. And so you're just tweaking yourself. And that's when it gets fun because you're like, I'm the only person who knows me. There's
Yes. And
no
you
one
get to
outside of me who
trust.
can tell
Yeah.
me about my hunger signals. So that's where it gets really fun.
Like when I lift weights, I'm not particularly more hungry, maybe sometimes, but if I run, I could
Yes.
eat an entire, like
Yes.
it's never ending hunger. Like I'm
Yes.
just so hungry.
Mm.
So for people who exercise, because I know for me, I'm like, I just need fuel. Like I need,
Yeah.
like I understand if I go at 5 in the morning to the gym.
Yeah.
So
Love
like
it.
most times I'm fasting at that time. I don't eat
Mm-hmm.
before I go. But the times that I've exercised in the week on the weekends at 11, where I've had already breakfast, I noticed a massive difference in how
Mm.
heavy I can lift. So I
Mm.
still prefer, and it works for my family and my schedule to be up at 5 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But this might be a thought for the athletes out there listening to us, or people who are working out,
Yeah.
and who have programs. The eating two meals might cause a problem. What will you have to say to that?
So the whole point is just to lower your insulin levels in between meals. So if you love eating 3 meals a day, that's completely fine.
Right.
But eat 3 meals a day, but then don't have the snacks in between and then the cups of coffee with milk and then all of these things in between. Have it with your meals. And it's like a dentist, right? They say when you're eating sugar, eat the sugar in one sitting so it doesn't cause a decay of the teeth. It's similar thing with this, where you're eating it in a shorter period so that the insulin spike isn't too high every time. Because when you're constantly spiking your insulin, then you're going to have a very high level of insulin all the time. And then you're going to be in fat storage mode all the time. Whereas when you can have periods where your insulin dips, that's when it's going to go to your body's fat as fuel.
I love it. For people like me whose metabolism might be really slow, and you said like it, I can I say that fairly? It comes with age. Your metabolism slows down,
I
so
guess.
it's like
Yeah.
it's easier. It's harder, excuse me, to lose
Mm-hmm.
weight.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to them? Because then my brain is thinking about when you've lost weight, you were eating all the time, like
Mm-hmm.
to put up the calories. Like if I wanted to eat 1,700 calories, for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
I have to drink a shake of protein in between meals, like
Mm-hmm.
something. Because I'm not a snacker either. Like
Yeah.
I can easily naturally just have two meals and be totally content.
Yeah.
Um, so what happens to people with a slower metabolism? And I guess overweight people might have a slower metabolism as well. I don't know if that's true. I'm making that
Yeah.
up.
As in,
Yeah.
as in often the reason why, like, firstly, just wanted to clarify something about intermittent fasting because people think that, well, no, that means I'm just like eating less. And so I'm going to be lowering my metabolism. That's often a fear that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to address that because actually you're not lowering your metabolism is increasing but it's just using the body's fat as fuel to like generate the energy. It's not just relying on the food you're eating. So it's still maintaining your metabolism, but using the body's fat as fuel to like burn the energy, not just what you're eating. So that's one thing about.
So sorry, your metabolism doesn't slow down because actually fasting activates your metabolism?
Yeah. And you're actually using the body's fat as fuel to maintain the energy to like keep the body like moving, basically.
Love it. Okay. And you were going to say something else?
I was going to say something else, but now it's gone. So I've forgotten. What else did
You're
you
welcome.
ask?
I can take thoughts away from you anytime. Okay, so once a person is fat adapted and insulin has lowered,
Yeah.
intermittent fasting, is this something they can do for life? Is this safe to do for life?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you still want people to pay attention to how they feel and when to open and close their windows of eating. What will be next then? So like I'm fat adapted, I'm really comfortable with intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And then what's next? Like my brain is saying like I never ever again have dessert. Right? Like
no, I eat dessert every day. So look, if you're watching the video, no, you only do the audio, isn't it? But I have chocolate every day. I have 1 or 2 of these big bars every day, and I'm at my goal weight. And so I found a way to have dessert every day. I was like, hell no, am I not going to have dessert every day? I'm going to have dessert every single day, and I'm going to be able to be at my goal weight. So it's because I was able to like decide that, do I really want bread every day? And I was like, no, it makes me feel bloated. It makes me feel really, really sluggish and tired, and I just am not able to concentrate as well. But when I have like certain, things like when I have my dark chocolate, or I have, this fruit, or I have this, it really fuels me. And I love the way it feels in my body. So I found a way to make it work for me. And I love looking forward to the way I eat, because to be honest, I've become a bit of a food snob. I'm like, I love the way I eat so much that I don't even want to go out to eat all the time, because it's like so nourishing and so delicious the way I eat. So food doesn't have to be boring or repetitive. You get to decide whenever you choose what you're eating, you get to decide everything that you put on your plan. But it's just about having your own back and being willing to tweak it and keep like being committed to it, because it can be quite tedious, right? People are like, I don't want to plan my food for the rest of my life. But the opposite of that is like being in drama about your food for the rest of your life. And so which one do you choose?
Yeah, no drama. Love it. So I'm talking to you as I'm heading out for 2.5 weeks home. I'm going back home. And I know for a fact we'll be eating at restaurants a lot of the time, because who wants to cook on when they're away? And thankfully, I'll be at my mom's, which is also different from like how I would, make meals, and like you don't want to give me all the things I haven't eaten a lot in a while. I think my body would be like, oh, what do you say to people then when they want to eat healthier or nourishing? I just love the way you describe eating. I'm like, that's how I want to feel. Yes. And they have like, I don't use this as an excuse, because of my food intolerances, I know that no matter where I go, I just keep up with what I can and cannot eat. But I'm thinking listeners might be like me. Oh, but I have vacation, so I'm gonna start after a vacation. And I really want to challenge that thought. I mean, I had to challenge it because of my food intolerances. I can't say like I'll eat gluten on vacation. Like I'll ruin my vacation. That's what happens if I do. But that's not everybody. So what will you say then? What do you normally tell your clients when they're about to take off on it's not vacation, I'm just changing locations of work. But
so the fun thing is, whenever you are creating your plan, wherever you go, you don't need anyone external to tell you. So it's so fun, because you get to take this everywhere you go, whether you're going to a restaurant, whether you're going on holiday, whether you're going to an all-inclusive resort, whether you're going to your mom's house, you get to choose what you're eating every day. Now, a lot of people say to me, hey, I don't know what I'm going to be eating every day. That's when I say to them, try and like figure out what you can as much as you can in advance. So it may be looking at menus in advance, especially if you're kind of at home and you eat at the same kinds of restaurants every day. You know what you're going to choose. You know what's on the menu. Have a look beforehand. Basically, this is where you're using your planning, which is that prefrontal cortex, because we have 2 parts of the brain. The primitive brain that wants us to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and stay how we are. Then we have that prefrontal cortex, which is that human part of our brain that enables us to delay pleasure in the short term to achieve our longer term goals. And so the planning uses that prefrontal cortex, that human part of our brain. And so when we can do that, then it's kind of like setting ourselves up for success. And so it doesn't have to take long. It may just be looking at the menu in advance, picking, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice. The reason why I say doing an A, B, and C at least is because there's going to be times where they don't have this in stock, or they don't have that, or they don't have that. And normally, if you only have just one thing that you've planned, as soon as they don't have that, your brain's going to be like, oh, I get to eat all the things because I tried and it didn't work. So that's why I always have A, B, and C option, so that you're kind of like, being there with your brain, knowing it's going to do that. And then you're kind of setting yourself up for success with that. So yeah, that's one thing that I would suggest. Another thing is doing all your thought work before you go on holiday, because so much of it is, I need to relax now because I'm on holiday. I don't want to say no to mum because mum's made this with so much love. I just want to relax with my partner because we never get to get time. Oh, I just really want to connect with my kids because this is the time. Oh, I've paid for an all-inclusive holiday, so let me, get all the things. So it's about looking at how else can I approach some of that thinking, because I know that if I just carry on doing what I've always done, I'm going to eat way more food, and then I'm going to come home, I'm going to feel guilty, I'm going to feel like annoyed with myself, and then the whole cycle restarts. So even if you just make a few tweaks on holiday, and what I tell my clients is, even if you just pay attention to, I'm going to eat to hunger. I'm going to actually just pay attention to, hey, I'll still have my 2 meals a day, or 3 meals if you want to, that's fine. But just pay attention to, I'll eat when I'm hungry and I'll stop at enough. And I'll do that consistently. That one thing will change everything. Or if you say to yourself, I normally have dessert every day, maybe I'll have dessert 3 times in the week instead of every single day. And then when I'm there, I'll see, does this really tickle my taste buds? If it doesn't, then I'll wait for something that really does. And then when I eat it, I get to enjoy it because I have decided this. Because this isn't some sort of restriction diet. It's never going to be sustainable that way. This is you intentionally deciding, I want to eat this and I'm going to enjoy it when I do.
So I think I remember what you were going to say before, the working out people and how much they need to eat.
Yeah.
But I first want to come back to this point. I think that's super valid, because sometimes we drop doing the thing because it's just one thing. If I'm just gonna do one thing, it just won't make a difference. I won't do it, like the all or nothing mind. And I really wanted to address that. Yeah. I know you mentioned it in passing, but I want the audience to hear this. It's the one tiny little thing makes a difference. It all begins with baby steps, right? Like, so don't drop it just because it's like, what difference would it make if I don't eat one dessert today? It does, because tomorrow you're going to make a different decision. And
completely.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's like the compound effect of these tiny decisions. It may be moving you just 1% today. Imagine the trajectory that a 1% decision makes in like a week, a month, a year. It is phenomenal. You don't need to make huge changes in your decisions. It can just be 1% tweaks. And that is going to change everything.
I love it. Okay, so did I remind you of the thought you had?
So I can't remember what I was thinking then, because my ADHD brain is like, I can't remember what I was thinking. But I'll talk to what you said about exercise. I think what you were asking me at the time was, what do people do who exercise a lot? Was that something along the lines?
Yeah, like in my head, like some people might feel like, but then, like, how do this not restricted, but only 2 meals, how could that compete with like making sure that I have all the fuels I need to live, to run? Or like in my case, when I run, I'm starving like the rest of the day, and I understand why.
Yeah.
So I eat more eggs. Like I add more protein. I wouldn't just go hungry. Like I know my body's asking me for something. But
so what I would say is, this is just like one baseline. Some people eat 1 meal a day. Some people eat 3 meals a day. Some people, like, everyone does intermittent fasting slightly differently. And you just get to kind of like play around with it to see what works for you. I know people who exercise and who do 1 meal a day. I know people who don't exercise and eat 3 meals a day. So it's very, very variable. Right. Okay. And so you need to find the thing that's going to work for you. If you feel that actually I'm exercising and I'm like very, very hungry, that's actually something that exercise can do to the hunger hormones, because exercise can actually make you feel much hungrier. And actually, in terms of weight loss, exercise is only 5% of weight loss, contrary to what you may have heard. 95% is nutrition and mindset. So if you find that you're over exercising and then you're feeling extra hungry and you're then compensating with more food because you're saying, hey, I need to eat this because I'm more hungry, you may actually end up gaining weight. And so something that may be the case for you is maybe just like changing to a lower intensity exercise, or like anticipating that, yes, I am going to feel hungrier and I'm okay with that. So you just want to be like understanding that, yes, you may feel hungrier with that, because sometimes when you're over exercising, you're raising your cortisol levels, which is going to raise your insulin levels, and you're going to be in fat storage mode. And so when you are doing that, then you are going to feel hungrier and you're going to probably gain weight. So if you're exercising for weight loss, it's not going to be very effective. So if you're thinking, hey, that's why, let me over exercise, my suggestion would be to completely stop. Maybe do something that's actually like lower intensity, like walking, or something you love, something you enjoy, because exercise is phenomenal for your physical and your mental health. For that reason, I do it every day to really help with my anxiety and to keep my back pain at bay. So I do exercise every day, but I don't do it for weight loss anymore, or for weight maintenance or anything.
No, for me, it's what it does to my brain. I love it.
Exactly.
And I, most of my 30s, I did yoga, like, and running. Those were my two things. But now I really see the benefit of lifting, because I want to age in proper form. I like, it's gonna be great for my body. And I don't go crazy lifting, but definitely, like, I want to have muscles. I want to be like support my skeleton with muscles.
Good for you. Yeah, love that.
All right, so let's talk about, how do people get a hold of you? What is your program? You mentioned the program a little bit.
Yeah.
So if I was somebody interested, I know you're in the UK. Most of our audience is in the States. And in Canada. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This past month, we had more than 5,000 downloads just in the podcast. So we know people are listening. Hopefully, we'll have some people in the UK now listening.
Yes,
we actually have people all over the world, but the largest audience is in the States. And second close to that is my fellow Canadians. So tell me about the program. People might be thinking, oh, time zone might not work. If I wanted to work with Amruti, like what's the program called? How do they get a hold of you? How long is it? Tell me all the details.
Oh, thank you so much, Olga. So I have a one-to-one coaching practice that's still open, so you can work with me one-on-one. It's normally either 3 months or 6 months, and we do free consults on there to decide what's a good fit for you. But I also have a group coaching program, and this is phenomenal if you wanted to really focus just on weight loss and all the things around your weight loss, and just having a better relationship with your body, feeling lighter in your brain and your life, so you can feel lighter in your body. And so that's a 6-month group coaching program. I enroll 4 times a year. It is really to get to that root cause of what food is solving for you, so that you can learn how to solve that for yourself, so that you can lose the weight for the last time. And you can find out more information about that on www.amruticoaching.com/group. And I do have 2 calls a week for that. So one is to suit the kind of UK and kind of like the other side of the world, and one is to suit the clients that I have in the US, Canada, and I have some in South America as well, which is really fun. So
my people. Love it. Okay, and you're a coach for women, men, women only?
So I do in my group coaching program, I do women only, but I do have a lot of men reach out to me, and so I do coach men in my one-to-one coaching practice.
Love it. So I don't know exactly when this is going to be airing, but head over to the show notes. You will have Amruti's website, and we'll have all her links. Do we follow you on Instagram as well? Is that a thing or not?
Yeah, you can follow me at amruti.coaching. And I have a podcast, which is Weight Loss for Women Professionals. And Olga's going to be coming on there very soon. So that'll be really
fun. I am super excited for this episode to air. I think that you broke some myths that I knew I needed it. And this is giving me a feeling that it's not complicated, first of all, and what a gift. Thank you. Because I think my brain wants to overcomplicate it. And it's also brought me back into the passenger seat and feel like, hold on, I can make choices and it's in my hands to do. I would say, maybe because I'm a coach as well, because I know myself, that knowing what to do is not the same as doing it. Yes. And that's why the coaching is so essential, because we all know what to do. We all know sugar is bad and flour. She didn't tell us anything we didn't know, right? Not bad. I mean, we know it's not great for our bodies. And yet we might stick around that for a week or two, almost never 6 to 8 weeks by ourselves.
Yeah.
So I do see the power of having that coach to stay accountable, to have somebody to talk to and be like, today was tough. And that person be like, of course was tough. It's supposed to be difficult. I would encourage anybody, as I always do, to not struggle alone. And no amount of weight is too much for you to feel like, well, there's no help for me.
Yeah, and too little as well, because a lot of people are like, oh, I just have 1 or 2 kilos to lose or 1 or 2 pounds to lose. But especially if that's on your mind a lot, it's worth just kind of like, nipping it in the bud. I don't know if we say that in Canada.
Yeah, we
but
do.
like, nipping it in the bud and just being like, hey, I'm just going to learn the tools to be able to deal with this for life. So I don't have to like think about it so much. And so I can use my mental energy to do the things I actually want to do in life.
The freedom. Because I do think it consumes a lot of time.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll be next coming to you, Amruti. I'll be a client for sure. You sold me. I actually have appointments today to be like speaking to some of the nutritionists or the coaches I told you about, because my brain was like, I need testing. I need to make sure my hormones are exactly. And you challenge that thought, like, because that's still relying on something other than like, I've got the answers. And that really spoke to me. So
I'm so glad, Olga. It was so lovely to come and speak to you and your clients today. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you guys next Monday. Hello, my friends. Olga here. I'm interrupting your episode only to let you know of an exciting opportunity for you and I to work together this month. On May 12th, I am starting our next group of Reset Your Mindset, which is my 12-week coaching program that also has a teaching component of mindset. The registration is open as of right now. I am looking to having as many of you as possible who are tired of feeling overwhelmed, to being doubting yourself all the time and in overthinking mode. And if you're ready to just dive into your growth mindset, if you're ready to think differently without changing anything about your life, but suddenly having your life feel so much better, this is your chance. It starts May 12th and we end the end of July. These are the best 12 weeks that you can invest in your mind and in your well-being. Your money is guaranteed. So if by the end of the 12 weeks you did not or did not see any progress with your confidence, your overthinking didn't slow down, I'm going to give you your money back. So you have zero risk involved. Summer and spring are the best time to do some mindset work. So I'm not sure what's holding you back, but come join me. You can go to the show notes, you can sign up directly, but if you want to talk to me first, you can also book a complimentary call where you and I can just chat about your mindset goals, what's going on for you, and whether or not Reset Your Mindset is a good opportunity. Talk to you guys soon, and I really look forward to seeing you in there.